Now let's talk about planning your native ad campaign. And as the old saying goes, if you fail to plan, then you plan to fail. Now, just because this video is coming a little further on in the course doesn't mean that this is step 3 or 5 or anything like that. This should actually be one of the first things you do, because as you plan your campaign, that's what's going to allow you to know what advertorial angles and headlines you should use, and what phrases should be linked, and what kind of CTA you should have, and also who are you going to target. Now, I want to start off by describing the difference between a media planner versus a media buyer. A lot of people are jumping straight to media buying without doing a very critical step, which is one of the reasons why so many people think paid traffic doesn't work for them, is because they're skipping half the process, the media planning. A media planner is someone who is responsible for analyzing past data, if there is any, from previous campaigns, then thinking creatively and dreaming up whatever the strategy is to reach the right target audience in the most effective way possible. So the media planner has a critical job of figuring out who are we going to target, how are we going to target them, what's the best ways based on all the research and previous data. The media buyer is the one who then takes that plan, sets it up in the ad campaigns, and then they're in charge of executing the campaign, executing that media plan, and optimizing it inside of the ad network. Two very critical roles. A lot of people are skipping one of those. So in this video, we're going to talk a bit about how to create your media plan in 5 steps. The 5 steps are: first, you're going to decide on a specific goal or outcome. Then you need to choose an ad budget that matches your goal, also your tolerance level. 3, you need to create your customer persona. 4, choose the audiences and placements that match your persona. 5, write out a few ad copy ideas based on your persona's desires and fears. I'll bet that you've never done all 5 of these steps, and I'll bet even more that you've never done all 5 of these steps the way that I'm going to show you how they should be done. Now, the first part is creating your goal. People overlook this because it's said so many times, goal setting is important and all that. But it really is. But the problem is people aren't creating specific goals. Obviously, we know the goal is to make money. And we could drill down a little farther. Obviously, we know the goal is to make a positive ROI on your ad spend. Or I want to make the highest ROI possible. Or maybe you've even got it down to, I would like to make $2 for every $1 I put in. These are still just super surface level goals that do not allow you to create the right campaign. It's not the right mindset to help you reverse engineer your way into success. And so the more specific and relevant you can be, the higher your chances of profit will be. If I were selling my own courses, an example goal would be 1,000 new students for Solo Ads 101 by September 1st. And you know what? I might even go a little bit further and say 1,000 new students for Solo Ads 101 at a cost of less than $4 by September 1st. Not get new customers for ad skills, which is what most people's goal basically sounds like whenever they go into a campaign. You need to be specific. That way you know what type of bidding you should be using, what type of targeting you should be using, what type of campaign objective you could be using. A lot of you, when you're setting up your campaigns, you don't know the answers to those questions because you don't have a specific goal set up first. And then creating your ad budget. To decide on an ad budget, you need to first establish estimated benchmarks for your cost per click, conversion rate, and earnings. For example, inside of Facebook, most people can get 80-cent clicks most people can get a 1% conversion rate, and your earnings would be calculated by taking all the products in your funnel, adding them up as if somebody had come through and bought everything. So if somebody came through and you had a $100 upsell, and then you had a $200, or I'm sorry, you had a $100 main product, then you had a $200 upsell, and then you had another $200 upsell, your total possible earnings would be $500. And so based on this $500, if I want to be able to have a profitable ad campaign, I can reverse engineer these numbers to figure out, okay, where do I need to be? So, for example, 80 cents per click at a 1% conversion rate. That means 100 clicks is going to cost me $800. And I'm sorry, it's going to cost me, $800. And so at a 1% conversion rate, that's not going to work. So 1% conversion rate is one sale out of every 100 clicks. So this number isn't going to work. If I'm only earning, and that's if somebody came through and bought everything. If I'm only earning $500 and a 1% conversion rate is essentially going to end up costing me $800, that's not enough. So now I know I probably need to set my cost per click at least 50 cents, because 50 cents times 100 clicks with a 1% conversion rate, I'm at least going to be able to break even. This is how you start creating your ad budget, is by looking at your own numbers and then on paper reverse engineering those numbers back into what you actually are going to be able to afford. Now let's talk a little bit about your customer persona. This is huge, and everybody skips this step. The customer persona is work that you probably should have done at the very beginning stage of, when you came up with the idea for your business, is identifying who the customer is. In your customer persona, you need to make sure you include the demographics, which are, what is their gender, their age, their income, where do they live, basic information about the person. And that's usually where people leave it. That's not enough. You then need to go into the psychographics. So what do they like? Do they like Ford or Chevy? Do they like Nike or Adidas? Do they like, the paleo diet, or do they like the keto diet? You need to understand the psychographics. And I like to get into what books are they reading? What TV shows are they watching? What magazines are they reading? What stores are they shopping at? What websites are they visiting? That's the psychographics for me. And then you also need to talk a little bit about their desires, their fears, their frustrations. And getting all this information together is what's going to allow you to know what angles to create. For example, in my market, people are afraid of high cost per clicks. So if I create an advertorial that says something like, 10 ways to reduce your cost per click, my audience is going to jump all over that. Or if my audience's fear is of being too fat, or they want to lose weight, so obviously they don't want to be fat. So if I create an advertorial of 5 foods that are making you fat, or even better, 5 foods in your refrigerator that are making you fat, by knowing what their desires, fears, and frustrations are, by doing this work up front, that's how you do everything else in this course. And a lot of people skip it thinking, oh, I know it in my head. I've got it. I'm smart. Don't be that guy. Do the work. Do the research. The way I find this information, I research social profiles of my followers, of my subscribers, my customers. If you don't have any yet, look at your competitors. Find somebody who's bought your competitor's stuff and then go through their social profile. A lot of people don't have this stuff locked down, so you can go through and see what they like, dislike, what they're talking about, all that stuff. Read reviews of products on Amazon, specifically the negative reviews. You want to know what they don't like. The negative reviews is where you find their fears and frustrations. The positive reviews is where you find their psychographics and their desires and stuff like that. Another thing I like to do, read blog comments of related niche blogs, especially the longer ones. The shorter blog comments are usually like, oh, Gary, I love this blog post. But the long ones are the ones where they're like, I didn't like this blog post because of this, because of that, and because of this, and I've been struggling with this. Like, when somebody writes a long blog post, they're like draining their heart onto the page. Those are the ones I like to read for doing my customer persona research.